What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of the action thriller film The Order, starring Jude Law and Nicholas Hoult. This film is from director Justin Kurzel, adapting the 1989 nonfiction book The Silent Brotherhood, telling the story of an FBI agent going after a white supremacist terror group in the Pacific Northwest in the 1980s. This film premiered back at Venice earlier this year and is getting a small, limited release right now from Vertical in the United States. It's only been in about 600 theaters thus far, so certainly a small release. We'll see if it gets too much more than that. Ultimately, I think most people will be finding this film in the home in due course. Simply put, The Order is a very riveting movie anchored by two excellent performances from Jude Law and Nicholas Hoult. On one hand, you have Jude Law's FBI agent, a veteran of going after organized crime, someone whose psyche and body is breaking down, but he has a fixation on going after the bad guys. And on the other side, you have Nicholas Hoult playing a very charismatic, very terrifying white supremacist who is very adept at leading people for such an evil cause. It goes without saying that a lot of the hateful rhetoric we see in this film, which takes place in the 1980s, can be familiar to today's world. That being said, I think this movie really holds up because it's just so gorgeous. The tension is excellent, and there's some really excellent set pieces throughout the film. To me, there's a lot of depth with the storytelling in The Order. It's not doing the more in vogue thing we've seen before, where we color in and humanize the racist evil people and show that they're kind of normal in a lot of other aspects of their life. That's not actually what this movie is doing, although that is certainly part of The Order. I think what I really most responded to is the fact that this movie, I think, really expertly communicates that, it's not monolithic white supremacy. There's degrees and levels to hate. And I love how this movie positioned Nicholas Holt's Bob Matthews and his, group, The Order, as this radical offshoot of a already radical group, the Aryan Nations. Kind of showed the two sides, if you could say, where you have the perhaps more scary and terrifying, long game playing influencer character played by Richard Butler, this the head of the Aryan Nations, this guy who wants to spread their evil ideas, and eventually, in due time, people like them will be in government, and they can have, in fact, long change. And you have Nicholas Hoult and his compatriots who want more direct action because they're the ones who feel so aggrieved in the here and now. And there's I think, a spectacular scene that's pretty terrifying where you see Holt kind of rise up during this rally and use his more forward-facing rhetoric to, get more allies, and it's pretty terrifying stuff. Of course, a movie like this can be hard to watch. I mean, Mark Maron, he plays a outspoken uh, Jewish radio broadcaster who gets murdered by this group, and it's a difficult scene to watch without question. And, I mean, you're gonna see and hear a lot of the white supremacist, anti-Semitic, racist rhetoric throughout this movie, but it's all I think it's really grounded. Nothing really comes across as cartoonish at all, and that's what probably makes it even more scarier is the fact that you can see uh, why this felt real back then and why it's certainly real today. And Jude Law, this outsider coming to the region who has a unspoken but clearly broken family in his past, and his body is also breaking down from all the stress and the one-track mind he takes to his job, the constant nosebleeds throughout. His approach to this kind of cat and mouse game, as he's kind of identifying and then trying to go after this group, I think it's really compelling. Great performance from Law. Love the mustache. He's kind of right at home in a role like this. I also thought it was a good use of Ty Sheridan, who plays the local, more idealistic cop who slowly begins to spiral into the same fixation that Law's character has as well. Done quite well. Honestly, it's a really excellent year for Nicholas Hoult at this point. He's great in Juror Number 2. He's supposed to be great in Nosferatu as well, which I haven't seen yet. And I think he's really good in The Order. On one hand, it makes a lot of sense to cast Nicholas Hoult in this role because he has those bright blue eyes. He definitely has the classic Aryan definition, but he is a charismatic performer, and he is really convincing as a leader of men, albeit, a leader of evil criminal men. I think to me, The Order is a really excellent entry in this type of storytelling. Like, I think probably the most famous example of stuff like this would be American History X, but The Order is approaching this from a whole different angle because The action angle is strong. Like there's bank robbery scenes, there's chases, there's stuff in cars. Like I think the action is quite compelling. But again, as I said before, the approach to showing you um, the rhetoric, I think, is done in a really sophisticated and more granular way than we've gotten in a lot of other stories like this. I like that the movie never, for 1 second, makes you want to root for the other side at all. Like it always portrays them as bad. There's no redemption to be found here. You want to watch them get caught. And the movie does a good job of keeping you on that ride. So, certainly not a movie for everyone, given the extensively, consistently heavy themes throughout the film. I remember like looking over in my theater. I watched some people, saw some people kind of like hunched over and like really focused and like locked in. Like it's one of those movies that you don't feel good watching, but it's also just so great to look at. Like I think the way Kurzel films a lot of the vistas and the mountains and stuff, like it looks amazing. Like shout out, the Pacific Northwest, beautiful region. And yeah, I think this is kind of, it'll be an unseen gem for sure that I think people will discover in time, and it's certainly worth people's time. Let me know though, what did you think of The Order? What was your favorite aspect about it? And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.